And I'll start here with Will.
Great. Well, thank you. Thanks, Jesse. Thanks, Alliance Housing folks, for having me. My name is Will Delaney. I'm the co-executive director at Hope Community Incorporated. Hope Community, similarly sized nonprofit community development organization, just located right up the street here at Franklin and Portland. I have been at Hope for the last 17 years. Time kind of flies. I have worked that whole time leading our real estate, all of our housing work, and I have, from the earliest days, got to know Alliance as a similarly situated affordable housing operator in South Minneapolis, and particularly as one who believes in screening people in and really working in a very community-oriented way, which really has always made for a good relationship and a good partner with kind of the work that we do at Hope. I'm also excited that over the last few years, as Jesse has been here, we've been finding so many commonalities in our work and finding different potential ways to work together, whether it's the policy space or the strategy around the duplexes and et cetera. And I'm sure we'll be talking about more of those, at later points. But it's been really great to develop a closer tie between Hope and Alliance, especially in the last few years, as the affordable housing operations landscape has gotten so difficult to find a really great relationship and partner in Alliance.
Thank you.
AsaleSol.
Good morning. I'm AsaleSol, they, them pronouns. I'm the Executive Director of Housing and Action, formerly Urban Homeworks. I have been at Housing and Action since 2017, and in my time there, I have been a grants manager, marketing development director, led our equity and engagement work, and in 2020 became the executive director. Our focus is very similar. We are another small organization primarily focused on North Minneapolis. Our model is scattered site. When we began, it was actually in the Phillips community, and we began with single family homes and duplexes. And similarly, we are on a path of we have sold our single families, we're on a path of selling our duplexes to really focus on multi-unit properties, which we'll get into kind of why that is later, I'm sure. But Housing and Action's focus is really about being community vested, community centered. Being a smaller org allows us to really walk alongside of our residents. And we really feel like our focus is on how do we eliminate the barriers to dignity and stability in housing? How do we help create pathways for folks to move from that stability into ownership and wealth building? Within my time, we've really also started to take on a policy focus, recognizing that sustainable change comes through the legislature. Otherwise, we will grind on this forever. And so I feel like our partnership with Alliance is fairly new. As small, scattered site rental housing organizations, we're all learning that our challenges become more surmountable with each other. And so I've really been honored that really both Jesse and Will have kind of brought me into that space of learning and growing together. And I'm really honored to be with you this morning, so thank you.
And the famous Mike Schmid.
Not so sure. Can you hear me? Yeah. I'm not so sure about being famous. I'm a little nervous up here. I'm surprised that Jesse allowed me to come up here. But I was hired as a property manager of Alliance Housing. I'd like the opportunity to recognize the team that I'm a part of. Somewhere in the crowd there is James, Cherie, Morris, and Lyle, as well as Emily. And that's our team who provides housing, provides property management to the 22 scattered sites that Alliance owns.
This is a cool and fun group of folks, so welcome. So I'm going to start here with AsaleSol. Can you talk to us some about who Housing and Action serves and how that's changed perhaps over time?
Absolutely. So when we started, we were, like I mentioned earlier, founded right here or close by in Phillips neighborhood, and the focus was really about community development. It was how do we bring up lower income communities, and so we started with folks making less than 50% of the area median income. At the time, because we were founded by a pastor, the focus was also on this integration of communities. Folks living in the Phillips neighborhood as well as folks from outside of that neighborhood, building intentionally together. Over time, we recognize that we really have to preserve affordable housing for folks that need it and really allow the folks in that housing to center themselves and to work with each other to build that kind of community. And so I would say that those are the biggest changes in how we have worked. And we actually didn't make that change until about 2018, 2019, where we said, okay, we're no longer going to do this program called Urban Neighbors, where we bring folks in from outside of the community to sort of live amongst the folks in community. We're actually going to focus on those that need this housing. And so we serve folks making less than 50% of the area median income in our rental housing. It's a lot of families, similar to the beautiful family that we saw on the screen just a moment ago. We also serve veterans and elders. And in our affordable development, we work with families typically making 80% of the area median income, but we are working on that pathway piece. So really exciting for us, we recently partnered with Black Lives of Unitarian Universalism to develop a scattered site cooperative for families making 60% of the area median income. And this is a really cool project, you all. Like, this is 3 units on a single plot. Within each unit, families have 4 bedrooms and 3.5 bathrooms. And they're living within a community. Cooperatives are intentional community. There's a lot of misconception about what it means to own a cooperative. But we're really excited because we recognize that to move from a lower income into wealth building and ownership, you need a concrete pathway. And we feel like cooperative housing offers that opportunity. So we're really excited to keep digging into ways to be creative.
How about you, Will? Who does Hope serve, and is that changing over time?
Yeah, so Hope Community, similarly, so Hope was founded in 1977 just on Portland Avenue, a couple of dynamic Sisters of St. Joseph, which if you've ever met any of the Sisters of St. Joseph, you'll know what I'm talking about. Started really, it was a Catholic worker inspired home, the St. Joseph's House, which we still own, and started as a shelter for women and kids. And really what happened because of the approach of those incredible women who led the organization was really listening and engaging with folks in the Phillips community, which at that time, of course, was seeing lots of disinvestment, you know, over the last half of the 20th century. And really what grew out of that over all those years was a focus on building community in a comprehensive way, but starting with the premise that affordable, stable housing is so critical to everything else in your life. And so started buying up the block there at Franklin and Portland and reimagining that entire intersection. And so over the years, so it started with a real focus on women and kids, but then kind of grew to be a more comprehensive view of community. We now, you know, fast forward to today, have almost 300 units of housing. We serve, we like to say, really across the gamut, everything from folks coming out of long-term homelessness. We have affordable home ownership opportunities we've developed, including with our partners at City of Lakes Community Land Trust. If anybody's ever been by recently, 628 East Franklin, which was the longest running vacant residential building in the city of Minneapolis. It had been vacant for over 35 years. There are now people living it thanks to the partnership of CLCLT and Hope. We got that finished about a year ago. And the folks who live in our buildings, so again, as I said, Hope is a comprehensive community development. Housing is a main piece of it, but we also have, most of our staff actually works on our community organizing, community engagement, community building, everything from youth programming to, we have 7,500 square feet of community garden space, we have arts organizing, a big mural program, all kinds of other things. And our demographics really mirror the demographics of the Phillips community, which, if folks are familiar, I like to say, you know, if you look at a pie chart, Phillips is the most diverse neighborhood, not just in the city, but probably in the entire state. And when I say diverse, I mean 24% white, 25% Latino, 28% black, one of the largest urban American Indian populations in the country. Franklin Avenue is where the American Indian Cultural Corridor is. It's where the American Indian movement started. It is an incredibly diverse community, and that's really reflected in who lives in Hope and who Hope engages with in our work.
Thank you. Impressive. So I'm gonna go to Mike here and have Mike, can you talk to us a bit about what you see as the largest issue currently facing affordable housing?
I think expenses are skyrocketing, and we've tried to keep rents affordable, and the math just does not work. I think the other obstacle is because of those slim margins, capital investment has been minimal, and so the housing stock is showing it. But I think, from my perspective, that I'm most passionate about is, I think Scott had mentioned it, this work is hard. And what I mean by that is staff is asked to do a lot. My maintenance staff, yes, they have to snake toilets. Yes, they have to fix refrigerators, but they're also asked to be security. We have some people that under properties that shouldn't be here, and maintenance staff has to provide security. They are also asked to de-escalate when maybe a resident becomes upset about something. They're also asked to be a coach. You know, we're talking about housing people that were homeless, and sometimes they don't have the skills to maintain their apartment. Well, maintenance guys and gals have to coach people. That's really, really, really hard to do. I think the same thing applies for our admin staff. Compliance is more and more complex. We have to collect rent. But we also have to be case managers. When someone can't pay their rent and they don't have a case manager, we have to fill in. We're going to assist those individuals to help pay their rent. Admin staff is also asked to be security. I mean, I'm not saying it's violent out there, but I've gotten smacked in the face before, and that's some of the things that we have to deal with. I think one of the things that I never thought about in regards to property management also is, you know, people are living in our apartments. Death is also a part of living. Over my experience, I've probably found I apologize for being morbid, but I've probably found 12 people that have peacefully died in their unit. And that's, to be quite frank, very stressful. My point of this whole thing is this is hard work. And it's more about, it's not just all nuts and bolts. It's about providing a stable home. And it's not easy. And I think that's probably the greatest obstacle that we have.
What would you add?
Well, that was great. Maybe I'll just build off of what you started with, Mike, there, which is really the math problem of affordable housing, and that's only been getting worse. It's a model that goes back, decades, and you could spend a whole day talking about affordable housing finance, but that's not what you're here for. The point is that we're in kind of the worst of both worlds right now, which is where the rents that our residents are asked to pay, even though they're set at affordable levels, often are far beyond what even those residents can afford. So they still have cost burden, and many of them it actually still struggle to keep the rent paid, even with those lower rents. And those rents that we're collecting are not nearly enough to pay for all the things that Mike described, which is to how do you adequately staff a building, how do you keep up with rising insurance rates. You can't not pay your utilities. You can't, skimp on those things. If you skimp on maintenance, there are all these downstream effects. And so that is fundamentally the cycle we're caught in. And frankly, it's only been getting worse over time because, as we've seen, for really decades, the federal government pulling back on their investment in housing. I will say we're in the state of Minnesota here has done a really great job of adding more investment, but how we're doing it, could we be doing it better? There's all kinds of ways and this is why we're involved in the policy space, frankly, is to try and maximize what we are investing. Because right now, it's still not enough to overcome that fundamental, like I said, worst of both worlds. If we can't operate these buildings affordably and our residents can't afford to live there, we really need to rethink and reimagine what it looks like. So that's what I think we're doing.
Yep, and that does link right into all of our policy work. So I'm going to start with Mike. I'm going to start with AsaleSol. What is the role? I've heard us all talk about being small, right? We think that's one of the things that makes us unique, but also brings a lot of value to the community. AsaleSol, what do you see as the unique role of small organizations in responding to these issues?
Yeah, I think that's a really great question. One of the things I really value about the size of Housing in Action is that we have a history of being responsive and nimble. During 2020, when North Minneapolis residents, like the reality of a food desert surrounding them was glaring during 2020. You know, we all started to think about our food resource a lot differently during that time. And we work in housing. We don't provide supportive services at Housing in Action, but we stopped doing everything and we focused on what was the actual need that our residents had. The most urgent need. They were going to stay housed, so that part was taken care of. And so we partnered with another small organization to do food giveaways, just to make sure that our families had 3 meals a day. And so I think that there's something really beautiful about being nimble. To your point, we do a lot of really hard work, and when we're always kind of being asked to shift, it can be really stressful. But I think that that's a really important factor. I also think that our ability to elevate the voices of our residents, because we walk so closely with them in policy work, is really important. So at Housing in Action, we do a lot of policy forums, and that means that we're bringing our elected officials into the Northside community to actually deal with, talk to directly residents who, you know, as they're setting policy that impacts them the most. It's an opportunity for residents to recognize the power that they have. If they don't like what a policymaker is doing, to let them know and to say, like, you know, we're not going to vote for you in the future. But also it gives those elected officials the opportunity to really stand behind what they say and listen to the voices of the people. So I think that our role is to be that bridge, make sure that our marginalized communities are less marginalized moving forward, and to be responsive to their needs.
Mike, what would you add?
I guess with a smaller organization, I think we can create a culture and support our staff of what I call relational property management. And as an example, James, he can fix anything. He's awesome. But what struck me recently is we were having a conversation about a resident who was kind of directing some disrespectful behavior. James mentioned, well, maybe she's had some trauma in her life, and maybe her behavior is about that trauma. It's not about me, it's about her. And he was able to de-escalate it. I think what we've done and a small organization can do is kind of create that sort of passion for our work, that sort of dedication for our work, and it's really important. I think the other thing, another good example of kind of this relational property management, which I think we can create, is we have to collect rent. It's getting more and more difficult for residents to pay their rent, but we have to. Cherie's not going to like this story, but I was eavesdropping Cherie, and her voice was this assertive, empathetic angel. And my point being is that she was respectful, but still asking for rent, because that's what we have to do. And again, I think it's easier to create this type of a culture, and I think, I'm a little biased, I think Alliance Housing has done a good job of that, so that we can provide a stable home for individuals for the long term, just like Ephraim.
Yeah, I know one of the things I really appreciate as an executive director of a small organization is just the ability I have to stay connected with residents and to understand resident experiences and take phone calls and hear from residents and connect. It helps me do my job to hear from them. Wrapping up, what do you want people in this room to do to respond to these issues? What would you ask folks in this room to do to respond to the issues we talked about today? Anybody who wants to go? Popcorn.
Well, I'll just jump in and say, I mean, thank you for showing up, because I honestly believe that supporting organizations like Alliance, donating, using your money to help is a massive thing, and that's so needed. I really believe, as I was saying, that I think so much of how we can reimagine what our affordable housing looks like is from kind of the community level, the ground up. I think that's where it's going to have to be, and so to me, that's really using your your time, you know, your treasure, but also kind of your voice, as AsaleSol was saying, to kind of talk to people, keep it as an issue. The fact that affordable housing has become like a political, over the 17 years I've been at Hope, nobody at the state legislature wanted to talk about housing really like 15 years ago when we were talking about things. Now it's one of the main issues, and it's becoming more and more of an issue people are willing to talk about. And so I think you all can help keep that on the radar and keep that as a topic of conversation, and that is incredibly valuable in this time to do that. So thank you for showing up.
I would say that our staff are proficient. I think we're fiscally responsible. I think we're passionate about what we do, and I think we're empathetic with what we do. We're all the property management staff are from Minneapolis. We care about Minneapolis, and we only provide housing in Minneapolis. And so I guess I would ask that you join us in this quest to provide stable homes. And how you can join us, to be quite frank, is, as I think Scott Red will probably say a little bit later, open up your wallets and help us. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll only build off of that. Your voice, your presence, your engagement, that is the most important thing that this work has. It's your heart. The fact that you're here at 7:30 in the morning says so much about you, and it's spreading that passion, that fire that got you to get here that early in the morning with your community. It's ensuring that when you're in casual conversation, socializing at happy hour, that you're talking about the thing that really matters to you, which is clearly affordable housing. It's that when you are thinking about who you are voting for, you're looking at their housing policy and you're making sure that organizations like Alliance are going to be supported by those elected officials, and that their policies are going to make it more accessible for every single one of our neighbors to experience dignity and peace in their housing. That is everything. Obviously, your dollars and your donations matter. It's why we're here, and it's why we're here together. You know, Will and I are both directors at small housing organizations, and fundraising is paramount to continuing the work, and we recognize that so much that we're here to support Alliance in raising those dollars today. So please open your wallets and give today, but also remember your voice and your heart are just as important.
Bam, bam. Thank you. Please join me in giving a big thank you to our wonderful panelists.